Hey guys, it's Will here. I'm going to go through the market indices and then I'm going to talk about some stocks and ETFs using the approach that I use, and we'll go from there. So if we take a look at the Russell 2000, you can see that we have an uptrend. So what I use to look at to determine the health of a index is to look at higher highs and higher lows. So I've got this little line, and you can see that we have higher highs, and then the low. Every time you have a pullback, you get this low. The lows are increasing, and we kind of have a double bottom here. The other thing I look at is I like it to be above the 50-day moving average, the prices, the candles, and ideally this 21 EMA, which is the exponential moving average, is above the 50. If you want to get this TC2000 software, check out the link in the description. You get a free trial or $25 off. I've got the gold plan and a US real-time data. So right now it's 8:25 in the morning, and you can see that I'm able to see the prices before the market opens. So if I go to 10-minute chart, there's a gray area, and you'll see. So if you wanted to trade in the pre-market or post-market with the gold plan and the real-time data, you'll be able to see that. There's also platinum plan and silver, which is lower, and each one has different features which you can check out. So the Dow is obviously doing really well with the reopening play. So you've got the Dow, which is industrials, a lot of basically airlines and oil and gas and things like that. The Nasdaq would be the tech. The Russell 2000 is smaller companies. And then you've got this S&P, which is a mix of industrial and tech. So that's why I have these here. So the Dow is quite strong, better than obviously the Russell 2000. Higher highs and higher lows. That's going to be a key concept that I'm talking about in my videos, along with the moving averages, is just the price action that we have higher highs and higher lows. And that's going to affect a bunch of things when you buy and sell, which I'll talk about, and I have talked about. S&P, similar to the Dow. It's got higher highs. This one is a little bit lower than that one. Sometimes you have close. Like the trick with the higher highs and higher lows is that sometimes it needs a little bit of time to establish. So sometimes it'll be a little local, small situation. But we've broken that. So technically, if I drew a line, which could increase over time, like you don't know where it's going to pull back, but we now have a higher high here in the S&P. And then you have the Nasdaq, which is the weakest one. What I don't like at this in terms of buying is that the 21 EMA is below, but the price is now above the 50, and we have higher lows. We now have a higher high as of Friday or Thursday, but we do have this recent high here. That's actually higher. So what I like to see is the 21 get up above the 50. That's kind of the rule that I have. You can see here that I would buy once this 21 EMA gets up over the 50. But there's people getting in early when there's drops and things. So if you have different strategies, that can work, and you can use TC2000 for different strategies. But I like this idea of trends and higher highs and higher lows. I'll show you stuff that's kind of continuously had that scenario for long periods of time and stayed above the 50. And also, like, you can rebuy in. Even if you buy in at the same or a little bit higher price, you're kind of avoiding these potential big downturns. So if we go to sectors, we've seen a resurgence last week in the tech growth type stocks, which is the alternative energy. You can see one of the reasons why I don't buy on the dips, like on the downturns like this, is because you can see how it comes down, breaks through, and when it comes back, it hits the 50 and goes down again. So if you think, well, it's starting to come back because there's a couple of days of up candle, bounces off the 21 or 50, comes back down. And then you start to see, okay, it's close to the 200, it's coming back up, and sure enough, it bounces off. So now you've established these lower highs. So we're in a transition. This is where I was getting into earlier, where I was talking about higher highs and higher lows. So once you break that tradition and you've got a lower high or a lower low, you have to wait ideally for a reversal of that situation. So right now we do have a higher low, but we still have these lower highs. So once you get above that spot, this one here, you've established a higher high and a higher low. And that's a good spot. I'd want to see the 21 get up above the 50. So we have the 50 sloping down. So, when you look back at this huge run, that's why I wanted to show you guys this idea of using the 21 and the 50 for long runs. So I'm moving to a little bit slower moving average just because there's volatility and I was getting stopped out if I put stops too close. So I want to let these things ride a bit longer. And I still, obviously when I was buying, I still wanted things above the 50. But you can see here when we have an upsloping 250 that the 21 stays above the 50 this whole time. So, and you have higher highs and higher lows. So right here, if you see here, we have a low and we come up, and and we bounced, we didn't quite reach another higher high. So that was a bad sign that was a sign of weakness. We came back down. Once we get below the 50 and below a recent low, I would probably sell. That's a bit earlier than waiting for the 21 to cross down, which happened a few days later. But that would be an early point where you have a close below the 50, but it's below this recent low here. And because of this double top here, that was a bad sign. So now we're establishing potentially, we got close to the 200, a higher low, and we want to see a higher high. So it looks like, the solar or the ARC funds, we're in a transition. We still have lower highs, but we're starting to reverse. And we had some support here at the 200-day moving average. So I'm waiting a bit longer for the 21 to get up above and to sort of establish an uptrend again. So things that ETFs, I guess, that are looking, that's why you can compare it to this situation where you have jets, which is the airlines, in a nice uptrend with higher highs and higher lows above the 21's above the 50. If we go to aerospace, similar, that has Boeing and stuff like that. Bets, which is the gambling, we have higher, we pulled back here, but now we're above, and 21 is still above the 50, and everything's good there. Home builders is looking good. It's in an uptrend, higher highs and higher lows. So those are the ones that I want to focus on. Retail, they're all in this upslope. So that's why the tech is, it's a good opportunity to buy, a pullback, but it's not quite in the same, uptrend as these other ones. We've had some strength in the utilities. Obviously, there's some resistance here, but we're above, the 21's above the 50, and so, that one is looking pretty decent. If we want to look at individual stocks, Tesla's coming up because there was a good report, but like I said, I think we have a higher low here, and we're potentially going to break this recent high, so we're going to have a higher high, but we're below the 50 and the 21 is below the 50. So, but it looks like that's a chance of it is coming back. But that's another one where if you're riding this, there's different ways to go. You can stay above the 200 this whole time. If you're looking at 50, there'd be a couple of sells and repurchases. But then you have this 21 staying above the 50 this whole time. We're like for a huge multi-X, 6, 7X run. So the only thing there might have been, when it drops below the 50, if you look at a previous low, it would have still been above. I'm going to turn off that little. If you look at this low here, we stayed above that here. So it depends where you're thinking your low is. If you're thinking the low is up here, you might have sold, but then you can rebuy right there. So even if you bought in a bit higher, you know, it prevents this huge downturn. Up here, this would have been a selling point. Oops, as I mentioned, you have a drop below the 50 and a low here. But if you wait for it to cross the 50, it would have been a bit lower at this point. If you wait for the 21 to cross the 50. But we're seeing a turnaround, and we'll see what happens with that. What else do we have? If we look at semiconductors, NVIDIA is doing good. It's back up over the 50, and 200 sloping up, and the 21 is sloping up. But I'd like to see the 21 get up above the 50. We have a little bit of resistance here, but if we go to the sector, same sort of thing. We're right at the resistance point. So what I would wait, now that we have the 21 just crossing the 50, I'd wait for a pullback, like in a new low, a new higher low established. This is another one where you have the 21 above the 50, and this whole time the 21 stayed, except for right at this current spot. So this just shows like you have, let me see here. If I go from here to here, so with TC2000, you can drag your mouse across. You're almost at 100%. And so you would have doubled your investment since May. And you could just stay the 21 above the 50 this whole time. All right, so that's about it. Things are looking pretty good in the overall markets right now. And if you want to get this TC2000, check out the link in the description below. Talk to you guys later.